Hi everyone. Now we will start socio-economic condition of India during the period of spectrum, as we were discussing about the socio-cultural movement, socio-cultural reform movement and their leaders. Okay, so first was the Raja Ram Mohan Rai. So Raja Ram Mohan Rai was the leader of Raja Ram Mohan Rai was the leader. Was timing was 7072 to 83, often called the father of Indian Renaissance and the maker of modern India. And he put faith in monotheism, and he wrote the Gift to Monothesis and translated to the Bengali to Vedas and the five Upanishads, proved this conviction that ancient Hindu texts support monotheism. And Atmiya Sabha was in Calcutta, propagated the monotheist idea and meaning less ritual and other social ill. So, influenced by rational idea, he declared that Vedanta is based on reason, and that if reason demanded it, you were a departure from the scripture. So now he was the founder the Brahma Samaj, and it was the renamed the Brahmo Samaj. And through Sabha, he wanted to institutionalize idea of mission. Samaj was committed to eternal, unsearchable, immutable, and who is author and preserver of universe. Prayer, meditation, reading of the Upanishad were the form of worship, and no graven image, statue, sculpture, carving, painting, and picture portrait and were to be allowed in the Samaj building. So the long-term agenda of Brahma Samaj to purify the Hinduism and to preach the monotheism. And the Samaj also tried to incorporate teaching of religion and emphasis on human dignity and no idolatry, criticism of social evil, sati. Okay, the New Testament philosophical message, the Jesus principle of Jesus, he was his writing, and Roy progressive idea met with strong opposition from Orthodox element, and Raja Radhakant Dev who organized the Dharma Samaj to Brahma Samaj propaganda. Okay, so now, what was he did? He did denounce polytheism, idol worship, he discarded faith, divine avatara. It denied that any scripture could enjoy the status of ultimate authority. It took to definite stand on the electrine of karma and transmigration of soul, left it individual Brahman to believe either way. Criticized the caste system. Rajaram Mohan Rai first was the determining cruiser against the inhuman practice of sati, anti-sati struggle, and besides appealing to humanity, he also visited cremation ground, organized the vigilance group, efforts to rewarded government regulation which declared as the practice of sati. As a carebringer for the women's rights, Roy condemned the general subjugation of women and prevailing the misconception which formed the basis of according an inferior social status. Polygamy degraded status of the widow and demanded the right of the inheritance and property for the women. Raja Ram Mohan Rai was disseminated the benefits of modern education. David Harry first to found the Hindu college, and while Roy English School taught the mechanistic Voltaire philosophy, established the Vindatta College and physical science. So Bengali grammar book evolving the modern elegant prose style. Rajaram Mohan Rai, he knew more than a dozen languages, and as a bold supporter of freedom, praised and pioneered Indian journalism, brought about the journalism Bengali, Hindi, English, Persian, and demanded fixation of maximum rents. He also demanded abolition of tax and tax-free lands. He called reduction of export duty on the Indian goods. He demanded the Indianization of superior service, separation of executive judiciary. And Rajaram Mohan Rai was internationalist with a vision beyond his time. He stood for cooperation, activity of brotherhood, understanding of the justice, indicated understood significance of modern age education, and Roy had David Harry, Alexander Duff, and Devendranath Tagore. So Devendranath Tagore and Brahma Samaj was the Maharshi Devendranath Tagore, father of Rabindranath Tagore, and Tattva Bodhini Sabha, which was headed by the Tagore, and rational outlook on the propaganda of Rajaram ideas and new validity of strength of membership came to associate it with Brahma Samaj. and Brahma Samaj came to be included prominent followers Rajaram Mohan Rai, Derojio, and the Ashwini Kumar Datta. Tagore for the within Hinduism, Brahma Samaj reformist movement. It resolute of Christian missionary for the revitalize the widow remarriage and women education, abolition polygamy, and improvement in the riots. Now, Keshav Chandra Sen was in Brahma Samaj. So, before Devendranath Tagore, former joined the Samaj, and Keshav was the instrument popularizing movement branch of Samaj and Punjab, Bombay, Madras, many areas. So, Devendranath Tagore did not like some sane idea which found no radical. So, cosmopolitizing of the religion and his strong view against the caste system, support to intercaste marriage. Keshav Chandra Sen was dismissed from the Acharya, and Keshav explicable act as getting his 13-year-old daughter married to minor Hindu Maharaja Kuch Bihar. Orthodox Hindu ritual caused the another split in the Keshav Brahma Samaj of India, and earlier Keshav had begun considered as incarnation by some of the followers, such as a dislike of the progressive follower. Further, Keshav has begun to be accused authoritarian. Now, Sadharan Brahma Samaj and Sadharan Brahma Samaj was started the Anand Mohan Bose and Shiv Charan Dev. It reiterated the Brahma doctrine, faith in supreme being, one God, and belief in the man infallible, believe in the dictate reasons, truth, morality. So it was the Sadharan Brahma Samaj. Significance of Brahma Samaj was it mattered for the social reform and many dogmas and superstitions. So it worked for the respectful status for women, condemned the sati, worked for the abolition of parda, and discouraged the child marriage, polygamy, crusade for crusaded for the widow, remarriage, provision for education, and it also attacked the casteism, untouchability, attained only limited success. The influence of the Brahma Samaj did not go much beyond Calcutta. So the Prathana Samaj was the Keshav Chandra Sen help to the Atmaram Pandurang found the Pratna Samaj is Bombay earlier. The Brahma Samaj idea Maharashtra, a precursor of Pratna Samaj. So Mahadev Goni Ranade joined the Samaj and much for popularized the work, and his efforts was Samaj gain all India character. So N.G. Chandarkar and Bandarkar, the emphasis was on the monotheism, but on the whole the Samaj was more concerned with the social reform that will religion. The Pratna Samaj was very attached to the Bhakti cult of Maharashtra, and the Samaj held education, persecution. 4 point was disapproval of caste system, women education, widow remarriage, and raising the age of marriage for the both male and female. Dondo, Keshav Karve, and the Vishnu Shastri were the champion of social reformer of Ranade. Along Karve and Ranade founded the widow remarriage movement to the widow and home to association aim of providing the education and training to the widow. Young Bengal movement was by the Henry Vivian Derogio. So it emerged as radical intellectual trend in Bengal. So it's called Young Bengal movement. Anglo-Indian Henry Vivian Derogio, who taught Hindus college from, was the leader and inspired the progressive inspiration. Okay, so perhaps Derogio was his first nationalist modern India, and Derogio was given the reason for their limited success was prevailing social conditions and support from many other social groups. The Derogio lacked any real link with the masses. For instance, failed to take up the pleasant cause in fact, but radicalism was bookish in character. But despite their limitation, Derogio carried for the Rajaram Mohan Rai tradition, public education, social, economic, political question. For instance, demanded the induction of India in the higher grade service, protection of riots, Jamidar, better treatment to the labor, and reservation of the company of the charter and freedom of praise and trial of jury. Later, Surendranath Banerjee was to describe the Derogio as the pioneer of modern civilization of Bengal and concept of father of race. Virtue will excite veneration and will treat it with the gentle consideration. Now, next one was the Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. So, see, he was a scholar. Vidyasagar idea was the happy blend of Indian and Western thoughts. His belief in the moral value, humanist was general poor. Become principal of Sanskrit college, he was determined to break the priestly monopoly and scripture knowledge and open the Sanskrit college non-Brahma. He introduced the Western thoughts, break up the self-imposed isolation, and he involved a new methodology, and he devised the new Bengali primer evolved in new nose style. Vidyasagar started a movement in the support of widow remarriage. Widow remarriage. He was also crusade of child marriage and polygamy and women education. So government inspect a school. He helped organize the 35 girls school, many of which was his own expenses as secretary of Bethune. He was one of the pioneer of higher education, and the movement was the face great difficulty. The young student were shouted at the abuse, and sometimes even girls who have received Western education make slave. So the Bal Shastri Jambekar, he was the pioneer of social reform journalism in Bombay. He attacked the Brahminical orthodoxy and he started newspaper Darpan. Okay, Bal Shastri Jambekar. So he awakened the awareness about the social reform, widow remarriage, and Marxist scientific approach. And Jambekar founded the Bombay Native General Library and Native Improvement in Society. So the student literary and scientific library was Hindi in Elphinstone College also. Now Paramhansa Mandali. So the Paramhansa Mandali was 1949 in Maharashtra. Founder was the Mehtaji Durgaram and Dadoba Pandurang. So it was the ideology of the society closely linked to the Manav Dharma Sabha. So besides believing God, worship of society, also real religion is based on a moral conduct and love. Encourages was rationality and the meeting food cooked by lower caste and taken by the members. These mandali also advocated widow remarriage and women education. Paramahansa Mandali existed in the Pune, Satara and other Maharashtra. Now next one is the Jyotirba Phule. So Phule was the born in the Satara, Maharashtra, belonged to the Mali community, organized the powerful movement against upper caste domination and Brahminical supremacy. Phule founded the Satya Shodhak Samaj, and with the leadership of the Samaj coming from the backward classes, Mali, Telis and Kunbi, Sari and Dangar. The main aim of movement social service, spread education and women lower caste people. So Phule worked the Sarvajanik Satya Dharma and Gulamgiri become source of inspiration for the common masses. Phule used to symbol the Raja Bali as a opposed to the Brahma, symbol of Rama. Phule aimed at complete abolition of caste system, socio-economic inequalities, identity to the depressed community and class against those Brahman who use religion behind the blind faith for the masses, exploit the masses, and believer in the general equality, pioneer of women education and school. He was a pioneer of widow remarriage movement and also opened the home for the widows and social reform work. Next was the Gopal Deshmukh Lokhari and social reformer and rationalist from the Maharashtra. He exposed judge under British Raj, put without weekly Prabhakar and Lok Hitwadi. Social reforms, recognition, Indian society, rational principle, humanist, modern, secular value, attack the Hindu orthodoxy and religious equality. He said, if religion does not sanctions social reform, change religion. He was the weekly Hitachu and also played a leading role in the founding the Gyan Prakash and Hindu Prakash and Lok Hitwadi. So Gopal Hari Deshmukh was the very prominent social reformer who given the Gyan Prakash, Hindu Prakash and Lok Hitwadi. So now now what happens, like Gopal Ganesh Agarkar was the educationalist social reformer in the Maharashtra, and he criticized the blind dependence on the glorification of the past. And Deccan Education Society and Ferguson College was established in the Gopal Ganesh Agarkar, principal of Ferguson College and editor of Kesari. And Lokmanya Tilak was started his periodical Sudarak also. Now against the untouchability. Servant of Indian Society was given by the Gokal Krishna Gokhale, and the Servant of Indian Society with help the M.G. Ranade. So Gokhale and Ranade both given the Servant of Indian Society and to prepare a cadre of selfless work who were devoted to life to the cause of country in the religious spirits. And Hitvada began to the publish to protect the view of society, and those remain political activity organization like Indian National Congress. So after Gokhale dead, Srinivasa Shastri took over the president and society till continue to function. So it worked in the field of education and ashram and tribal girl and balwadi many place. Next was the Social Service League. So Social Service League, Gokhale and Narayan Malhar Joshi founded the Social Service League. aimed to secure by the masses better reasonable condition for life and work, and no miseries and cooperation society. Activity also included the police, court agent work, legal aid and advice to poor, illiterate, and exclusion of slum dweller, facility of gymnasia and theatrical performer, sanitary work, medical relief to boys clubs, and Joshi also founded the Indian Trade Union Congress. Now next is Swami Vivekananda. So Swami Vivekananda was Ramakrishna Paramhansa, a poor priced as a Kali temple in Dakshineshwar on the outskirts of Calcutta. So who was known in childhood the Gadadhar Chattopadhyay, founded many followers. Ramakrishna experienced spiritual trances from a very early age. He is considered to have attained the highest spiritual experience, and conversation with the people form the basis of what considered the teaching. So, in the form of parables, metaphors drawn from the observation of ordinary lives, and set the universal relevance and objective of Ramakrishna movement was to bring the existence of band of monk dedicated to life, renunciation, and practical spirituality, spread the universal message. Vedanta illustrated in life and conjunction with the lay discipline, carry on the preaching, philanthropies, and charitable work for the women, men, children, and irrespective of caste, creed, and color. Manifestation of the divine Paramhansa himself, foundation of the Ramakrishna Matha, and monasteristic disciple to fulfill the first objective, and objective was taken up by the Swami Vivekananda. Ramakrishna death. When the founded Ramakrishna Mission, the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Mutt was Belur near Calcutta, and the twin organization legally and financially separate. So now Paramhansa sought salvation through the tradition way and renunciation, meditation, bhakti, and increasing the westernization, modernization, recognize the fundamental openness of religion, and emphasize the Krishna, Hari, Ram, Christ, Allah is the one God, and compassion for the suffering humanity inspired those who listened to him. He used to say, service of man is service of God. Incidentally, Ramakrishna Paramhans was married to the Sarvamani Mukherjee and later the Sharda Devi. Ramakrishna considered Sharda as the embodiment of the Divine Mother, and the Holy Mother disciple also knew her as the played an important role, worked for the mutt, and encouraged the younger disciple. Swami Vivekananda was the Narendranath Datta, later came to be known as Swami Vivekananda, spread Ramakrishna message, tried to reconcile its needs of contemporary Indian society, emerged as preacher of Neo-Hinduism and spiritual experience of Ramakrishna teaching Upanishad, Gita, and Buddha, Jesus, basis of Vivekananda message to the world about the human values. Vedanta, which considered the fully rational system of the superior approach, his mission was bridge the gulf between the Paramatma and Vyavahara, and spirituality will be spreaded. Fundamental openness of God, motherland junction of two great systems, Hinduism and Islam. Emphasis of social action, declaring knowledge without action is useless, and attitude of Hindu in religion matter, and teaching religion to a kind knowledge, secular knowledge, work for the economic upliftment, spiritual knowledge to have faith in themselves and strengthen the moral sense. He called upon the countrymen to imbibe a spirit of liberty, equality, and the free thinking. So now Parliament was the of religious held in Chicago, and Swami Vivekananda made the great impression on people, learned interpretation. The keynotes of his opening address all the needs of healthy balance between the spiritualism and materialism, advises a new culture for the whole world, and call for the blend of materialistic for the West and spiritualistic of East to harmony produce the happiness for the mankind. Vivekananda gave several lecture Vedanta, and in India he was the delivered the series of lecture to focus which were to infuse with the new generation and sense of pride. India passed a new faith in the Indian culture and rare sense the confidence in Indian future to bring about the unification of pointing out the common foundation and education. So application of practical Vedanta principle not only in the personal salvation but social goods and reforms. Founded the Ramakrishna Mission. Vivekananda was a great humanistic, and Ramakrishna Mission humanistic relief, social work, religion and social work was there, and doctrine of service to the all beings, service of Jiva, worship of Shiva, life itself, in the religion by service of divine exists within the man. Vivekananda was the using the technology, modern science, and mission has been running a number of school, hospital, dispensary, help to the affiliated time of natural calamity, earthquake, flood, and epidemic. Mission have developed the worldwide organization and considered itself as a sect of Hinduism, and mission is Arya Samaj mission recognize the utility and value of image worship, developing the spiritual power of worship and God emphasize on the essential spirit, not symbol but rituals. It's believed that the philosophy of Vedanta will make the Christian a better Christian. And Vivekananda acquired a large piece of land. Bellur Ramakrishna Mutt was finally shifted and registered as such, and monastic order is open to all men without discrimination. Next was the Dayanand Saraswati and Arya Samaj. So the Arya Samaj movement, revivalist in the form of thought, not in the context, was the result of reaction to Western influence. Dayanand Saraswati Mula Shankar was born in the Maulvi state of Gujarat, wandered as a aesthetic 15-year in the search of truth. Arya Samaj Unite was formally set by the Bombay in the and later headquarters Samaj was established Lahore. Dayanand view were published in the famous work Satyarth Prakash, Vision of India, Social Religion and National. It's a India free from religious rule with Arya religion, common religion. He took inspiration from Veda and considered them to India rock of age, infallible and true origin of seeds of Hinduism. Slogan back to back Vedas, and the Dayanand slogan was back to back Veda was a call for the revival of Vedic learning, purity, religion, not a revival of Vedic time, but modernity displays a patriotic attitude to the national problem. Dayanand received education Vedanta from a blind teacher named Swami Virjanand of Mathura, and along with the emphasis Vedic authority stressed the significance of individual interpretation of scripture and right access to God. He criticized later Hindu scriptures such as Purana and ignored praise and pertaining the Hinduism. Dayanand strongly criticized the escaping the Hindu belief in Maya and of physical existence and aim at human life and struggle to attain the moksha. So they instead of advocated the God, soul and matter were distinct eternal entity, and salvation is like eternal principle. So thus the attack the prevent popular belief every individual contributed to God with the society, and Dayanand believed in the theory of karma and reincarnation, and also said good deeds should be primarily for the good others and not for self. So Dayanand Saraswati was the Vedic notion of Chaturvarna system in which a person was identified as the Brahmin, Kshatriya and Vaishya Shudra, but not by birth but according to the occupation and merit of person. So the 10 guiding principle of the Arya Samaj was worship universe is alone worthy and worship the Veda are book of true knowledge. Arya should already be ready to accept truth, abandon untruth. Dharma, that is due consideration of right and wrong, should be guiding principle of action. Principal aim Samaj is promote words well-being in the material, spiritual and social sense. Everybody should be treated with love and justice. Ignorance is dispelled, knowledge increase. One own progress should depend on the uplift of others. Social well-being, mankind plays in the above individual well-being. Arya Samaj social idea comprise among fatherhood of God, brotherhood of man, equality of sex, absolute justice, fair play of man and nation, intercaste marriage, widow remarriage, and Dayanand to also met reformer Keshav Chandra Sen, Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar and Ramade. So Arya Samaj came to be known social service. So it was the Arya Samaj who worked against the earthquake, famine and flood. It took the initiative promoting the education. Also illustrate the member like Dayanand death was 83 now. Dayanand Anglo-Vedic College was established in Lahore, but difference of opinion between the groups. So Dev College, one group was known to the college party culture, among the whose leader were Lala Hansraj, Lala Chand Lala Lajpat Rai, and other was Mahatma party led by the Guru Datta, Lala Munshi Ram. Now next was the English education to meet the economic and professional needs, Mahatma party. introduced study of Sanskrit, Vedic philosophy, and vegetarian also began to point out the contentions against non-vegetarianism and college party control was Dev School College, while the Arya Parinidhi Sabha and Punjab majority of local Arya Samaj branches were taken over the Mahatma Party. Shraddhanand opened the Gurukul and Gujarnwala. So in the Gurukul was moved to Kangdi near the Haridwar, hence the name Gurukul Kangdi. The Gurukul aimed at providing the indigenous alternative to Lord Macaulay education and police for offering the education in the areas of Vedic literature, Indian philosophy, Indian culture and radical social reforms. Kanya Mahavidyalaya Jalandhar sponsored education. Arya Samaj was able to give the self-respect and self-confidence and protect the Hindu society from the Christianity, and Samaj started Shuddhi movement to reconvert to Hindu fold, the convert the Christianity and Islam. Aggregate companion of Shuddhi led to increasing the communalism of social life and later show ball into communal political consciousness. Shuddhi movement attempt to uplift the regarded untouchables. And now Seva Sadan was the Parsi social reformer was Brahmaji Malabari. So Seva Sadan along with the friends, child marriage and widow remarriage, again it was on focus this Age of Consent Act regulating the consent of female and no exploitation against the female. Deva Samaj was Deva Samaj was Shiv Narayan Agnihotri. Earlier Brahma Samaj, Deva Sadan is a religious social reform society, and there is supremacy of Guru, so and eternity of soul and needs of good action. So it's ideal social behavior. Deva Samaj is a Narayan Agnihotri. Okay. So its teaching was compiled to the book Deva Shastra, and Agnihotri spoke against the child marriage. Dharma Samaj was Radha Khan Dev, and it was status quo, preservation of the status quo, social religious matters and opposition, even abolition of sati, so promotion of western education of the girls. Now next was the Brahma Dharam Mahamadala, an all India organization of orthodox educated Hindu. It's to defense of orthodox Hinduism. So Arya Samaj is theosophical, and the Ramakrishna Mission organization created a defend orthodox Hinduism were Sanatan Dharma Sabha, Dharma Mahaparishad, South Indian Dharma Mahamandali was these organizations combined to a single organization of Bharat Dharma Mandala. This organization sought to introduce proper management of Hindu religion institution, open Hindu education institution, and next was the Radha Swami movement. So Tulsi Ram Bankar was Agra was the Shiv Dayal founded this movement, and Radha Swami believed in the supreme being, supreme system of social life and spiritual attainment. So not all the renunciation of worldly life the consider of religion to true, while the sect was believed the temple, shrine and sacred place, necessary duty, work and faith in charity and service of prayer. So Shri Narayana Guru was the Dharma Paripalana movement. So the movement was an example of regional movement and born out the conflict between the depressed classes and upper castes. Sri Narayana Guru Swami was among the Java Kerala was backward caste Todi Templars and were considered to be the untouchable. Education into the temple entry Ijava were the single largest caste group of Kerala, constitution 26% of population. So Narayan Guru himself from the Ijava caste took the stone from the Neyar river and installed the Shivalanga Arupipuram Shivanatri. So intent to show the conservation of the idol was not the monopoly of highest caste, and began a revolution to lead to removal of many discrimination. Aruvipuram movement was the Narayan Guru taken this and expand into big organization to help the Ijava to progress the maternity as well as spirituality. Next was the Narayana Guru as its permanent chairman and the Kumara Asana general secretary. So Sri Narayana Guru held all the religious to be same and condemned the animal sacrifices, speaking against the division basis of caste, race and creeds, and devoid divine wall of caste, race, hatred, revival of faith, all live with the brotherhood, and a Java to live with the body tapping profession. So next was the recruitment to the government service, right admission, public school, political representation, changes such as upward social mobility shift traditional distribution of power and backward classes into the large conglomeration. Now, next was the Vakalinga Sangha. Vakalinga Sangha was the mass sword launch in the anti-Brahman movement, and justice movement was the Madras presidency was started by the CN Madhuliar, TN Nair and P. Tyagaraja to secure the jobs and representation for the non-Brahmin in the legislature, and Madras Association was which demanded the separate representation for the lower class. Self-respect movement was the it was the movement was started the E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar and Naidu mid 1920. The movement aimed at the nothing short of the rejection of the Brahminical religion culture, which Naikar felt was the prime instrument of exploitation of lower class. So undermined the position of Brahman priest by the formalizing wedding without the Brahmin priest. So it was a significance direct to the significant work in direction. So self-respect movement was given by the Narayan Guru and Kumaram and the T. Madhavan, prominent social reformer, and Desh Bandini was the editor of this. And temple entry, Travancore administration that was governed by this. K.P. Kesavas also launched the Kerala demanding through the open Hindu temple roads and untouchable. Civil disobedience movement was there. So this was the self-respect movement. Indian Social Conference as M.G. Ranade and Raghunath Rao founded the Indian Social Conference. So India Social Conference met annually. First session was 87 in Madras. Indian National Congress focused attention of social issue importance could be called the social reforms and against the polygamy and the Kulinism, intercaste marriage, pledge movement that inspired the people to take pledge against the child marriage. Wahhabi movement was the given by the Abdul Wahab Arabia preaching the Shah Waliullah inspired the essentially revivalist reason out to Western influence and regeneration. So truth splits. He was a first Indian Muslim leader. Desirability of harmony among the school of Muslim jurisprudence. So to integrate the best elements of recognition of role of individual conscience and Quran, Hadith, the teaching of Waliullah was further popularized Shah Abdul Aziz and Syed Ahmad Barelavi. So Muslim society was sought to eliminate it. Syed Ahmad called for the return to the pure Islam and kind of society. And the Prophet time India was considered the Darul Harb. It was needed to be converted Darul Islam. So movement was directed the Sikh in Punjab, but after the British annexation, movement was directed against the British and revolt. Wahhabi played important role in spreading the anti-British feeling. Titu Mia movement. It was the Titu Mia, popularly known the Titu Mir, and disciple of Syed Ahmad Barelavi, the founder of the Wahhabi movement. Titu Mir adopted the Wahhabism and advocated the Sharia Muslim peasant of Bengal against the landlord who was mostly Hindu British indigo planter. So movement was not a militant British made it only last 82 life was confirmation between him and British police. The Feraji movement was the movement because of emphasized Islamic pillar of faith, founded the Haji Shariatullah and scene of action of East Bengal aimed at eradication of social innovation. And movement become the revolutionary. Now it gave the organization system of village to provincial and level and Khefa authority Faraji organized a paramilitary force among with the club of fight Jamidar who were mostly Hindu and Muslim landlords beside the Indian indigo planters. So the even established the law court. So the Dadu Mian arrested the several times and arrest the finally weakened the movements. Now Ahmadiyya movement. So Ahmadiyya movement was the form the Islam originated from the India. It was the founded Mirza Ghulam Ahmad and liberal principle described itself the standard bearer of Mohammedan Renaissance and based itself like Brahma Samaj principle of universal religion, humanity, jihad and movement spread the Western liberal education, and the Ahmadiyya community is a Islamic sect believed the Masiha had come in the person Mirza Ghulam Ahmad to religious war, bloodshed and to reinstate morality, peace and justice and human rights and tolerance. Now next Syed Ahmad Khan and Aligarh movement. So this movement revolt was held Muslim to be main conspiration. This view was further strengthened activity of Wahhabi opinion got currency among the ruler that the Muslim could be used as an ally against a rising tide of nationalist political activity. So it's achieved through the offer thoughtful concession to Muslim section of Muslim-led Sayyid Ahmad Khan was ready to allow the official patronage to stimulate a process of growth and better education empowerment of the opportunity. Sayyid Ahmad Khan was a respectable Muslim family, was a loyalist member of judicial service of British government. Retreatment become he wanted to spread the Quran and interpretation of light of contemporary rationalism. Quran to be ultimate authority and should be adaptable to time and would be become fossilized. So critical approach, freedom of thought, and traditional no traditions and customs to dualize educationalist. Open a school, got book, translate Urdu, started Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, and bring about the improvement position of women and no parda, polygamy, advocacy, divorce, condemning system of Piri Muridi, fundamental underlining unity of religion, practical morality, preach basic commonality of the Hindu and Muslim. Sir Ahmad Khan was Muslim should first concrete education job and try to catch up with the Hindu counterpart. Advantage of early start, achieve participation of politics. He would be the invite hostility government towards the Muslim masses. Oppose the political activity by Muslim. Unfortunately, enthusiasm to promote education, employment, interest in Muslim. So it was like all was working for their social and economic upliftment in that era. Now, Aligarh movement emerges as a liberal modern trend among the Muslim intellectuals based on the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College and social reform among the Muslim, no parda, polygamy, widowry marriage, women education, slavery, divorce, ideology. Follower movement was based on a liberal interpretation of Quran and harmonized Islam with modern liberal culture and socio-cultural identity to Muslim to modern lines. Now, next was the Deoband school. So it's a Darul Uloom. So the Deoband movement was organized by the Orthodox section. So Muslim ulema revivalist movement with the twin objective propagating the teaching of Quran and Hadith, spirit of jihad, and Deoband movement was begun the Darul Uloom, Deoband, Shaharapur districts, and Muhammad Qasim Nanavahi and Rashid Ahmad Gangohi trained religious leader for the Muslim community in contrast to Aligarh movement which aim at welfare of Muslim. Support of the British movement and the Deoband movement was moral, religious regeneration of Muslim community, instruction imparted Deoband original Islamic movement and welcome formation of Indian National Congress, fatwa against the Sayyid Ahmad Khan. Now next was the Muslim Muhammad ul Hassan was new Deoband leader and intellectual content to religion, idea, national inspiration, and Jamiat ul Ulema gave the concrete shape to the Hassan idea, protection of religion and protection of rights of Muslim. Supporter of Deoband movement and inclusion of English language and European science system of education and no ulema and Darul Uloom. So believed to be the idealistic congress and cooperation between the Muslim and Hindu. Parsi movement was the Rahmanai Majdaswan Sabha, religious reform association, founded group of English education Parsi, regeneration of social condition of Parsi and restoration of Zoroastrian religion and Christian purity. So movement had Nanavahi and Farojahi, Dadabai Nauroji and K.R. Karma, S.S. Banerjee leaders. The message was reform was split newspaper and Raft Guptar and Parsi religious ritual practice were reformer. The Parsi created redefined the social sphere. Attempt were made to uplift the statue of Parsi women. Sikh movement was the Sikh community was the Sikh Sabha movement to make the available the proselytizing activity Christian missionary as well as Brahman Samajist. So Samajist Muslim Maulvi network of Khalsa school was established. The Sabha thought out the Punjab second direction. Everything went against the Guru teaching. So the Akali movement known as the Gurudwara reform movement and the Singh Sabha movement was there liberating Sikh Gurudwara from the control of corrupt Udasi Mahant. The government tried to see reprising the policy against the non-violent non-cooperation satyagraha. So but had to bow the popular demands of Sikh Gurudwara Act and gave control of Gurudwara to Sikh masses. So next was the Theosophical movement. There was the Colonel Olcott and Blavatsky Indian Thoughts Culture founded the Theosophical Society in the New York City, United States, and shifted the headquarters to Adyar. So, outskirts of the Madras, the society believed that a special relationship could be established between the person, soul, and God of contemplation. So, Hindu belief, reincarnation of karma, drew the inspiration of philosophy of Upanishad and Sankhya Yoga Vedanta, and its aim to work for the universal brotherhood, humanity, and distinction of race, creed, caste, sex, color. So, investigate the unexplained law of nature and power. So, it opposed child marriage, advocated abolition of caste discrimination, upliftment of the outcasts, improvement of the condition of widows, and its India movement have become the somewhat popular with the election of Annie Besant and its president after death of Olcott. Annie Besant had come into India and Hindu religion, Western scientific subject thought the college become the nucleus of formation of Banaras Hindu University. So Theosophical Society provided a common denomination of various sect of fulfillment urge of education and Hindu and theosophical people was value the lacking of positive program to the extent to impact of limited small segment. So a movement glorifying the Indian religion philosophical traditions. So now next was the significance of reform. What was the significance? See, this reform was the there was no orthodox section, so accept no not accepting the scientific ideology. So social religion rebels like reformers subjected to abuse, persecution, issuing the fatwa and assassination attempts were there. So, in spite of opposition movement managed to contribute toward the liberation of individualism, and no exploitation exploitation of the priest was there. Transnational religion text into vernacular language emphasized individual right to interpret the scripture. Simplification of the ritual made worship or a moral personal experience. So the movement emphasized the human intellect, capacity to think and reason. By weeding out the corrupt elements, religion, belief, and practice of reformer enabled them follower to meet the official, and religion and society were decadent inferior. So reform movement gave the rising middle class much needed cultural roots. So sense of human humiliation which was conquered by the foreign power. So the realization of the special needs of modern time, scientific knowledge, promoting the modern ideas, secular rational outlook, and major contribution of this movement. So this attitude reflect in basic change in notion of pollution and purity. So values, customs, prominent target attack from the reformer, yet reformer aim at modernization and westernization based on blind limitation, alien Western cultural value. So reform movement sought to create a favorable social climate modernization and to movement intend the India cultural and intellectual isolation. So the reformer argued the modern idea and culture and understanding concerned reformist efforts for revival the native cultural personality which had got the virtue. Various factors was the cultural ideological struggle, an important instrument of evaluation of national consciousness and the Indian national resolve. The cultural and ideological hegemony and progressive nationalist tendency was there. So what was the negative aspect of this movement? See, the negative one of the major limitation of religious reform movement was narrow social base, namely educated and urban middle classes, while the needs of vast masses, peasantry and urban poor were ignored. Tendency of reformer to appeal the greatness of the past and rely on the spiritual authority encouraged mysticism in new groups and fostered pseudo-scientific thinking. So no full acceptance of needs for the modern scientific outlook, and these tendency contributed at least to some extent in the compartmentalization of Hindu, Muslim, Sikh and Parsi. An alienation of high caste and Hindu, low caste and Hindu. So emphasis on the religious and philosophical aspect of culture heritage got somewhat magnified by the insufficient emphasis of the culture, art, architecture and literature and music and science and technology. To make the matter worse, the Hindu reformed confined their praise of the Indian past and ancient periods. So, upon the medieval periods of Indian Hindu, in essentially era of decades, like to create a notion of separate people on the one hand, and past was not acceptable. Low caste section was there in society and suffered by religious sanctions, exploitation, and itself tended to the place into compartment of the on the Persian basis. On the Muslim middle classes went to the extent of turning to the history of West Asia. So the process of evolution of the composition culture, which was evident, and Indian history showed sign of being arrested with the rise of another form of consciousness, communal consciousness. Okay, so this was some limitation of this movement. Now reform movement among the Hindu Bengal. Rajaram Mohan Rai and Brahma Samaj, Devendranath Tagore and Tattvabodhini Sabha, Keshav Chandra Sen and Brahma Samaj, Pratna Samaj, Derojio and Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Balashastri Jambekar, Student Literary Scientific Society, Paramhansa Mandali, Jyotirba Phule, Satya Shodhak Samaj, Lokahitwadi, Gopal Hari Deshmukh, Gopal Ganesh Agarkar, Savarkar, Indian Society, Sri Narayana Dharma Parihara Movement and Vakalinga Sangha, Justice Movement, Self-Respect Movement, Temple Entry Movement, Ramakrishna Movement and Vivekananda Dayananda Saraswati, Arya Samaj, Theosophical Movement, Wahhabi and Ahmadiyya and Syed Ahmad Khan, Aligarh Movement and Deoband Movement. So Rahmunai Majdayan Sabha and Singh Sabha movement was there. Akali movement. What is the positive aspect? The liberation of individual from conformity of fear, worship made for pure personal affair, cultural roots to middle class, and thus mitigating the sense of humiliations, needed self-respect and foster the secular outlook climate for modernization and cultural intellectual isolation. So evolution of national consciousness. Negative was the narrow social base, encouraged the mysticism, overwhelming religious philosophical aspect of culture while undermining the secular and moral aspects. And Indian history and Muslim to medieval history created notion of two separate people, increased the communal consciousness, evolution of composite culture arrested to the some extent. So this was the about the whole about the socio-economic movements during that time.